I've been wanting to talk to you about this for some time now, but I've been really hesitant because I know that there are always consequences to our choices. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what those consequences might be, but even if you can't foresee the consequences, when they do come up, you are responsible for them. That's just what it means to be an adult, apparently. That's what they tell me. So I'm hoping that by sharing this with you, I'm going to be doing more good than potential harm. This is really important. It's really important. It's also, I would like to share with you a secret that I'm not supposed to tell. Maybe I will tell you a story to get the information across without getting myself into too much trouble. If they try to disappear me, please. So that it's not in their best interest to disappear me. Also, please note, this is an exciting topic, but it involves a lot of ugliness. And so if you're sensitive or vulnerable, just maybe put this on the list of for watching later videos. So, anti-aging, the fountain of youth. There used to be a lot of talk about the fountain of youth. Now we talk about plastic surgery, but the interest in maintaining youth is still quite strong. And among the wealthy. We have to remember, even though currently we're not really taught very much history and we're not really encouraged to look into history, historical facts, incidents, stories, it's really important to understand history in order to be able to figure out what the fuck is happening right now. But I don't want to go into big history lessons because that would be boring. So I'm going to try to just give you pieces of information, and then it's going to be up to you to do some research, fill in the gaps. This lip gloss keeps sticking to my teeth and to my hair, and it's just a big mess. First, I need to give you these related informations because the conclusion, for it to make sense to you, it rests on this other stuff that you kind of need to just have a sense of. Just an awareness of. You don't have to believe it or understand it or really accept it, but you just have to be aware that, okay, this is what it's being built on. Number one, human beings are extremely superstitious animals. And that's a good thing because that's, in a lot of ways, what makes us learn so well. We see two things that happen together and we superstitiously believe that they're somehow associated. That can be a really good thing if we associate things like putting your hand on the cook stove element, the heating thing, and then the burning sensation. That is good to pair those things together and say, I believe that there's something about the putting of the hand on the stove and the burning of the hand that is associated, and I actually think one of them might cause the other somehow. If I want to avoid the burning hand sensation, then I need to avoid the hand on the stove event, occurrence, activity choice. And that also, though, leads to superstitious beliefs that maybe are less accurate representations of what's happening. For example, I walk under a ladder and then the next day I lose my job, and then I make this association between walking under the ladder and having bad luck. And so then I decide, I make this association that those two things are related when they're perhaps not. And so superstition works in our favor. It is something that is very strong in human beings, and that ability to see things that happen and connect them.
You can just add this 6 over here, and that'll give you from 1996 to 102 to 108 to 115, and then for here, you can just plus 1, plus 3, plus 5, plus 7 is how you get from 0 to 1, plus 3 is 4, plus 5 is 9, plus 7 is 16. You disregard the tens value, and you just take the 6, and you get 1156. So those are some of the amazing, magic, cool patterns that I like to play with.
To be able to predict things, be able to have control over ourselves and our environment. Superstition is not separable from intelligence. So a lot of intelligent people will think that they're less superstitious. That's not always the case. They may have more sophisticated superstitions, but they're not superstitious. If you were not at all superstitious, if you never made these associations between things happening around the same time, then you wouldn't learn, you wouldn't adapt well to your environment, you wouldn't survive. And so intelligence isn't a protection from superstition. Intelligence isn't a protection from superstition. Wealthy people and powerful people are not immune to superstitious beliefs. Intelligence isn't a protection from superstition. We sometimes attribute wealth with intelligence. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. And we sometimes attribute power to intelligence. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Usually it is. Sometimes, in the case of George Bush, perhaps, it may have more to do with having had intelligent people come before you in your family to set a situation up where you don't have to be super intelligent. You could actually be a little bit below average, but you're in a situation that grants you power. Most people don't really understand power. They may know how to get it on a very fundamental, basic level, playing the alpha game with the small groups around them, or manipulating people, but they don't understand power. They may think they do because they're able to master some of the behaviors that get them power in their small groups, but that's a very simplistic understanding. When we look at the truly powerful, their grasp of how power works and how to manipulate other human beings is a step beyond what the average person really understands about how things work, human interaction, how other people think. So there are some powerful, wealthy people who are powerful and wealthy because they were more intelligent, they had a better understanding of power, they were taught, it was modeled for them, or because they figured it out for themselves. There are other powerful, wealthy people who are more a product of a propitious environment, a fortunate environment. Maybe their family provided them with a situation in which they didn't actually have to know that much about power, or they didn't actually have to be that smart, manipulative, or that good at understanding others in order to maintain the power that was given to them by the people that came before them, by other players around them that will benefit from having them in power. There are also different motivations. Some people are very motivated to acquire as much power as possible. Other people, they don't necessarily want to be powerless, but they have other conflicting concerns. Maybe they are more geared to meeting other immediate needs, and that supersedes their drive for power. That becomes more important to them. Maybe they want sex often more than they want power. Love, easy distraction, lifestyle, more than they want power. People make different choices. Some people may not have a lot of power, but it's not necessarily because they don't know how to go about getting power or because they don't have what it takes to get power. This lip gloss keeps sticking to my teeth and to my hair. And it's the same with wealth. Everybody wants to have money, but people prioritize it differently. For some people, being wealthy is their top priority. They will forego prioritizing relationships, entertainment, distractions, freedom, personal comfort, personal integrity in order to make more money, And they might think that they have more money because they're better, more intelligent, lucky. They engaged in the right superstitious practices. But in fact, it may just be that money is more of a priority to them. Some people have power and wealth not because the superstitious practices that they engage in are successful. So what are some superstitious behaviors that wealthy, powerful people engage in? In the false belief that by engaging in those behaviors, they're somehow ensuring, maintaining, increasing their power and wealth. Of course, if you think that there's something that you do that helps you to be more powerful and wealthier than the people around you, or helps you maintain power over the people around you, then you're probably going to want to keep that secret. If you want to bond with other people that have power and wealth so that you can kind of consolidate your power and wealth, consolidate your power over the masses beneath you, then you maybe will share some of the practices with them, and then maybe you'll engage in them together in, again, this superstitious belief that there's more power if you do it with someone else. That can be seen as a superstitious belief, but there are ways in which science does bear out the idea that there are some things that human beings can do together that will be more powerful. At Princeton University, they found human-focused attention had an effect on random number generators. When humans focus on the random number generator, the random number generator generates non-random number strings. They found that bonded pairs had a more powerful effect. What does that mean, bonded pairs? Best friends, teammates, but the strongest effect was found with couples. So there's something about sexually bonded pairs. This is going to be important later. Just note that people who have engaged in sexual activity together have a stronger effect of focused attention on quantum processes, random number generators, electron tunneling, and other things. So the sexual nature of their relationship, that's key. Remember that for later. So what are some of these practices? A lot of the families that have power in society today have held power for a very long time. They are descendants of monarchs, the aristocracy, somehow, some way, and a lot of them have had traditions passed down to them, customs, beliefs passed down to them. This ties in with anti-aging in two ways. In the past, humans didn't age as well as we do today. Life just there's a complex relationship between youth, a focus on youth, virility, a sense of power, especially for males. The links between being young and strong and powerful, they're not as easily divided. And so we have all these myths and legends about the search for the fountain of youth, for a way to maintain youth in men that were after power. Now, this part, I'm just going to tell you a little story because I don't know how else to say this in a way that I can and that will be okay for you to hear and to understand and for me to say. So here's the story. Once upon a time, most of our societies worshipped goddesses, givers of life, and women had more power than they do today within that hierarchy. Some of the men noticed that the women who were having sex with younger men were staying younger longer. We're not talking about children. One, the men that the women were having sex with had to be post-puberty because that's when the hormone levels are where you need them to be to have the optimal anti-aging effects. But not just in the kind of mid-teens where the hormone levels are maybe less stabilized and they're still less balanced. Really, you could see that the early 20s is when the hormone levels and certain proteins in the blood are at their ideal peak for the purposes of anti-aging effects. Children don't have the appropriate hormone levels in their blood for optimal anti-aging effects. More importantly, and this is more important, having sex with children harms them. I'm going to have to make a different video about that because it's complex and people say if something is natural, then it's good. If it's unnatural, it's bad. And there are these people that have these natural urges to have sex with children because it's prevalent among the wealthy and powerful. Therefore, it's a natural thing. If you spend any time with human children, you will know that hitting people who take what you want or just kind of annoy you is also a natural response. And yet we learn as human beings, adults in our society, not to hit other people who piss us off, annoy us, take something that we wanted. We learn other ways of dealing with people so as to not harm them. So it may be a natural response to hit someone who takes what I want. That doesn't mean that it's okay. That doesn't mean that I should be given the right to hit anyone who gets in my way. That's not acceptable. And as human beings, we decide that that's not acceptable. Not because it's natural or unnatural, because it's harmful, because it prevents us from being fully human, and it drags us down to our animal instincts. And we are more than animals. Science is trying to sell you this idea that we're just animals. We're just a different type of animal. We've evolved along with other animals. We're just one of many, but we're not. We're not animals. Even if you don't believe in God or any of the rest, just for this moment, accept that humans are different, not just in degree, but in kind. We have a spark of something different. Point being, having sex with children damages children. Earlier, I mentioned the fact that bonded pairs, sexually bonded human beings, have a stronger effect on quantum processes than people that aren't sexual together. This reflects something about sex that they haven't told you, that they're not teaching you, that they're actually actively trying to hide from you. And I'm going to talk about that in a different video. But for right now, just keep in mind that there's something about sex between human beings that is different and that has different effects, not just on ourselves and each other, but on our effect on the world around us, on our effect on reality itself. And so for right now, let's just put the explanations aside and just take at face value that having sex with children harms them, and there is never a justification for doing it, ever. Not for youth, not for power, not for wealth. Not to please your God, not to please the being that you worship, not to fulfill your own sexual desires. Okay, now having sex with younger men. It was observed that women who had sex with younger men, so maybe men in their early 20s, where they're all at their peak of strength and hormone levels and just in the prime of life between maybe 21 and 26, that the women having sex with those men were aging more slowly. And some of them, there were some signs of age reversal. So women who had not had younger lovers and then at some point started engaging in sex with younger lovers, they started to demonstrate some anti-aging effects. Younger doesn't have to be absolute. If you're a 35-year-old woman and you're having sex with a 30-year-old man, you will still see these anti-aging benefits, because the hormones and the proteins in the blood of that 30-year-old lover are coming into your 35-year-old body and doing their thing. As long as the man is younger than you, he doesn't have to be 10 years younger than you, you will benefit from the introduction of his hormones and proteins. But at the time, people didn't understand anything about hormones and proteins. And so all they really understood was that these women that were having sex with younger men were exhibiting delayed aging, or reverse aging. To a certain extent, it will help in soft ways. So the men saw this, didn't understand it, didn't have any kind of understanding of how things work. So they concluded from the data that having sex with younger people was the fountain of youth. And this got distorted and corrupted and twisted to the point where sects, cults, groups of powerful men developed this idea that having sex with children would not only give them more virility, strength, and youth, but also power. A few years ago, a study was published in mainstream scientific journals that showed that when an old mouse is surgically attached through the veins, arteries, blood circulation system to a young mouse, the older mouse starts to see a reversal in aging symptoms. So their cognitive abilities, muscle tone increased. But for it to work, the proteins, the hormones, they isolated proteins in the blood that were responsible, they think, to the best of their ability, but it's really isolationist. So how they see things, they test things separately in petri dishes. So they're not, you don't really get the full effect. The paper was published, which I think it wasn't supposed to be. The information got out. And then when it kind of got picked up a little bit, then other people came out saying, oh no, look, we just quickly did this other study that showed that that wasn't true at all. No effect. And it just kind of got swept under the rug and everybody forgot about it. But it works. This is also why in a lot of ancient legends you have ideas of vampires and blood drinkers and the evil different groups of humans that drink the blood of others or drink the blood of children. And it's just this misunderstanding that came from this idea that there's substances that can be exchanged that lead to anti-aging effects. But here's the thing. Women's bodies are built in such a way that when men are happy and pleased, experience the ultimate pleasure, complete the pleasure, yay, happening event, yay, our bodies have the receptors in the right places to absorb hormones and proteins. The studies have shown that cum can act as an antidepressant for women. Orally, just the stomach acid will just destroy the hormone and protein. Mostly, not all, but it degrades it, but just through normal sex. Men don't have those recepting abilities in their body parts. No. And so they don't have the ability to absorb the hormones and the proteins in that through sex. And so if a man rapes a child or a younger woman or has sex with a younger woman, he won't experience any anti-aging effects because his body isn't absorbing any of her hormones and proteins, and so there's nothing to support that. You can't even just... So, and then even if a man allows himself to be taken by a younger man, that's not how the bum works. That's not what it's... there's no, for the proteins and hormones to transfer through to the bloodstream to do the anti-aging thing. That's just not how it works. It works for the female, and then into the normal standard sex kind of activity, yes. Just the other, just no anti-aging. And so what do we have? So we have these people that saw something that made a wrong association, that made an association that was inaccurate. And then it just got twisted and corrupted, but passed down. And now we have all these people, men having sex with children. Okay, yes, some of them do it because they are disgusting animals, and they don't care that they're destroying their victims on many levels. But the rich and powerful that are doing it as a ritual, they're doing it because they have been led to believe that this will maintain their power, increase their power, their virility, their strength, their youth. but it won't. You are destroying people for no reason. And even if there was a reason, that is not a sufficient reason. You can't just go about destroying people because you want to be more powerful. Even if it did work, which it doesn't, but even if it did.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
I don't care if you're into the New Age stuff or not. There is New Age ideas that say this, but there's also strong science that suggests that humans are in some way connected such that experiences that some humans are made to undergo will affect other human beings. I can go into this in another video or in the comments section, I don't know yet, but if you are damaging a great number of human beings, then even the people that you're not actively damaging are being affected by that. And we have more human beings on Earth today than supposedly we ever had. So if you're torturing and damaging a large percentage of these people, a great number of these people, that affects everyone. We're all picking up on it. We're all being affected by it. Emotion is contagious. So is suffering. I've been told not to tell you this, but I think you deserve to know. There's some people that have this and other knowledge, and they want to keep it from you because the fact that they have it and you don't makes them feel special. It makes them feel better than you. And it makes them feel like they have somehow more power than you. They are in the know. They know the secrets that you don't know. It just makes them feel more special. I think that they're wrong to do that. I think that you deserve to know. There are ideas about genes, that genetics is everything. But that's demonstrably false. And if it were, they would have won by now. The world would be a different place. But it's not. In the times when the kings and aristocracy were well fed and well taken care of, and the peasants were malnourished, children of incest, fetal alcohol syndrome, just abused and born of drunk mothers, then there were maybe very different intelligence levels that were able to be reached by the upper classes. And so the upper classes could look down on the peasants and say, they are obviously closer to animals than we are. They are genetically different. And so we are born to rule over them. But now that nutrition is more equalized and there's less incest and, well, there's not necessarily less incest. There are fewer babies born of incest. And even poor mothers are more likely to have, vitamins and minerals and checkups, doctors. And so the genetic capabilities of the poor lower classes in comparison to the upper classes, the differences are reduced. And it's not all about genetics. That sacred thing that the non-religious people aren't going to want to hear, and there are non-religious ways to talk about it. It's just harder. That spark, for right now, we'll just call it a spark. That spark that humans have, in some ways, some genetics can impede its full flourishing, but that's not always the case. And it can't always be predicted. We are underneath it all. And you can establish this from a non-religious, non-New Agey foundation. We are information. Some vessels maybe distort the information in different ways. Sometimes the information is so strong and coherent that it doesn't matter if the vessel is somewhat distorted. The light will shine through. And that's why their cloning, genetic emphasis thing hasn't let them win. because they're missing a huge part of the equation and they don't know it. And that's why you have power. That's why you can still save this. You can still win.